Hello there, everybody. WhatCulture. I should probably get out there with the microphone. WhatCulture Wrestling's Adam Clery here, and welcome back to NXT Ups and Downs, the show with all the arrows, where we talk about the show with the big X in it. We're a stenciler's wet dream. Now, all things considered, that was actually a pretty quiet week in the world of WWE. There weren't any more mass firings, there was no major controversies, there were no allegations of political bribery. It was just some wrestling shows, which is pretty much all WWE should ever be, by the way. And we roll on with yet another episode of everybody's favourite Wednesday night show. Statistically speaking, recently as well, everybody's favourite Wednesday night show. Haha. Now, we do keep saying they probably shouldn't be doing any wrestling at the moment, but since they are and we can't stop that, then nothing else can stop the content train either. So let's get up to our nuts in the guts of it, because my name is Adam Clery. Hashtag on Thursdays, we wear yellow even when we can't find our hoodie, and these are all the ups and downs for this week's episode of NXT. I honestly don't know where it is. Right, well, we start with what a mess. What a mess this was. Now, a lot of people last week were willing to award NXT some points, and I can't remember if I was one of them, for just pulling out a good match in the midst of some completely nonsensical storytelling. It was like, okay, so we're doing Velveteen Dream versus Adam Cole, except, oh, he is Finn Balor. Well, goodbye logical storytelling. Hello, good match, I guess. Yeah, alright, the former is involved with Imperium, the latter is trying to chase after Adam Cole, but okay, sure, I kind of want to see this match, and given everything else is going on at the minute, I'm not going to split hairs, so okay, can't wait for that next week. And then next week turned into this week, which turned into last night, and it was still, oh, we're going to get Velveteen Dream versus Finn Balor, that's going to be that exciting, and no, you're not. They were even advertising that half an hour before the show started, and then they opened by telling you, no, it's not happening. So let me just see if I can completely recap what happened here, right? You are getting Velveteen Dream versus Finn Balor, except you're not, because Finn Balor is not here. And then you're going to get Velveteen Dream versus Adam Cole, except you're not, because it's actually all of the Undisputed Era just beating him up. So you're getting that as a handicap match. No, except you're not, because Keith Lee's here for some reason. He's going to team up with Velveteen Dream, so you're getting a tag team match, except wait, no, you're not, because Damian Priest has now just attacked him and taken Keith Lee out of the match. So now you are getting a handicap match, except you're not, because for some reason Dexter Lumis is here. And what was originally set up as this random one-off match between two of the most enthralling, entertaining personalities in NXT ended up with Dexter Lumis taking out Roderick Strong with, like, a plancha thing. Like, I love it when wrestling is unpredictable. I don't like it when it's hard to follow. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't my appraisal of the main event. We will get to that in due course. But just the whole structure of this show. This was here, and then it wasn't. Then this was there, and then it wasn't. And for some reason, this is here, except it's not. It's actually something else. That was a catastrophic mess. I'm giving it a down. Alright, and now it's time for my weekly segment in which I just tell them where they're going wrong with the Dakota Kai, Tegan Nox stuff. And this week, I'm not going to tell them where they're going wrong. They've done this ass backwards, but at least this week they did it right. You remember last week they tried to present Tegan Nox beating Raquel Gonzalez as this enormous scalp. She had slayed this giant monster despite never actually presenting her as a monster. And lo and behold, this week they actually did. Her role in all this is supposed to be as an X Factor, right? She just rolls into a feud or a match or just something, batters somebody, does not get even remotely involved in anything resembling a good wrestling match, and then leaves, which meant last week Nox managing to beat her should have been this great thing, but we're not really seeing enough of her as a monster. And lo and behold, this week she was a monster, and it was great. Kai, Nox, Blackheart, the three of them had a pretty decent little enthralling three-way match where they were doing little segments and combinations, and it was all really good. And at the end, Gonzalez just came in, physically dominated Blackheart, put her through the goddamn ring, pinned her, picked up the win for her team, and more importantly herself, and that gets an up, because if you're going to give me a monster, let me see her be a monster. And the reason I've been beating the drum for this so much is it doesn't take too many little moments like this to really establish it, to make those wins like the one Nox got feel like a big deal. You just need to do it a bit more and a bit more impactful. So this was good. As I say, it is ass backwards, but it gets an up. Okay, right, this is the long, hard, difficult part of this video, because before I start, I pray to God I am wrong about this, because if I'm not, oh dear. If Drake Maverick being fired by WWE is a work being used purely to generate sympathy and fan engagement in a championship tournament, it is amongst, if not the worst thing they have ever done. Don't get me wrong, yes, they're supposed to do things that are grounded in reality and get you to buy into these performers as real people, but it's also supposed to be a form of escapism. At a time when literally millions of people are being sacked unfairly from their jobs, unsure how they're going to support themselves and their families, to use that for a wrestling show, to fake it for a wrestling show, is disgusting. That emotional video that Maverick posted following all the firings was really, really impactful and powerful and striking, and it really opened him up as a real person in the midst of this story that was just about WWE cutting numbers from a spreadsheet. It was probably the most important thing that happened that night to really ram home the human cost of what they were doing, and it will have hit home for a lot of people in real life because it's what they are going through. You can't use that for heat. Now look, don't get me wrong, they could just be using this to get a little bit extra out of him in this tournament to really help put him over on his way out, to maybe even help him get him some work elsewhere after this. But just even leaning into it with these promo packages and the commentary lines and the backstage interviews is just, it's just a terrible look. So that gets a massive down this week. And just like even the commentary stuff, it's like, oh, what a terrible fate has befallen Drake Maverick, which we're not going to specifically mention. And I wonder where he's going to go from here after we sacked him. It's just, no, this is a mess. If you're still going to have him work this like 90-day period or just do the tournament on his way out, then just let him do the tournament. The guy's a great wrestler. Let his wrestling speak for himself. Don't do this. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. Sticking with the Cruiserweight Championship tournament now, and it's Kushida versus Tony Nese. And here are 3 statements for you, right? If you put Kushida in a nothing partnership feud thing with Breezango, he's not very good. If you put Kushida literally in a bin, he's not very good. But if you put him in a wrestling match, he is so dependably, reliably, creatively, invigoratingly, engrossingly, entertainingly good that it makes me want to be sick. Last night's contest with Tony Nese, last week's contest with Joaquin Wilde, last month's contest with Raul Mendoza, they've all been short, sharp, punchy, brilliant little wrestling matches, all telling a nice little story from start to finish, where both men come with a game plan, and Kushida, through his inventiveness, his creativity, his strength, his determination, all these attributes, through that, his game plan is the one that wins out in the end. You can stretch something like that over half an hour if you want to, or you can just cram it into 5 minutes. It's just fundamentally how you make a good wrestling match, and Kushida just loves making good wrestling matches. Up! And while we're here, I just want to say a little thing about Tony Nese, because there is this little corner of WWE that, if they weren't in WWE, would be appointment to view, unmissable indie wrestling, like booking gold. And Tony Nese does not have a gimmick over. He hasn't got a thing that makes him feel really exciting, but he's just so good in the ring. If we ever get independent wrestling back after all of this, he should go do that. He should tour the world. I would pay money to see him. He's great. The new Broserweights backstage, Stallion Pete's not there because it's just Stallion, Riddle, and Timothy Thatcher. I just basically, what I want to say is, you see this picture of like Matt Riddle being really cool and wearing 2 gold belts, and Timothy Thatcher just being stood next to him wearing a t-shirt, not really knowing what he's saying. That is me and my friends on every single night out ever. That's the energy we all have. I'm Riddle. Right then, we now have to talk about that Johnny Gargano segment, because oh no. Right, so before I do, Dakota Kai's heel turn, I just want you to remember that, okay? It was one of the best things, probably one of the best heel turns the company has ever done, because her motivations were obvious, they were logical, they were hiding in plain sight, and the turn itself was hiding in plain sight. Of course she was going to turn on those women who weren't there when she needed them. It was literally there in the cage. It was so obvious, and yet we didn't see it because they did such a good job of masking it. It was nuanced, it was subtle, it was clever. You understood her motivations, but you were still sickened by what she did. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And the best thing about it was missing all those classic WWE lame-ass heel tropes of, no more Mr. Nice Guy, I'm gonna take what's mine, it's the fault of you people who don't appreciate me. Or, to put that another way, every single major beat Johnny Gargano managed to hit over the dinner table. I sigh. Now, a lot of people will tell me that Johnny Gargano's performances and his delivery as a heel have massively improved since the initial turn, and I will agree wholeheartedly with that. I was unsold of him as a bad person at the beginning, and now I do genuinely believe that he is a total worm. But the problem is, the material he is now being given to work with here is, apologies Chris for having to meet this, but it's dog shit. And this is the thing, a lot of people will also say that they're pushing the boat out and doing things in a different way rather than just cutting these promos in the ring, and him filming stuff over the dinner table with the cup as the centerpiece was definitely one of those. I'm glad they're doing something different, but again, the material they have to work with here is just so bad. It's just like Johnny Gargano's heel now. It's your fault. Just like it always is. There's a shaky camera. There's a strange effect. Pass the potatoes, please. What is anybody supposed to take from any of this? If they want to make him a good heel, just put him in a good heel feud. Have him beat up somebody. Like, that's all I want out of this. I don't need to be talked down the camera. Like, why am I in his home for dinner? None of this made any sense. Down. I'm a big Gargano fan, and I quite like that they turned him heel, and I really want this to come out being good, but just this ain't it, Chief. This sucked. And while we're on the subject, I'm gonna give it a double down because Kandy, my dear friend, I have never seen in my life a heel turn presented as having its own motivations while so demonstrably having none. What is your rage directed at here? She's not setting up a rivalry with anybody. She's not walking into an obvious or exciting feud. You don't feel like this puts her any closer to the NXT Women's Championship. Like, what is her thing in all of this? What is she here for in the midst of all of this? She's only turned heel because her husband has. So is she just his valet now? Is she his cupbearer? Now, don't get me wrong, I am all for a Kandy's heel turn. Her cookie cutter, like whiter than white babyface stuff it's kind of gone a bit stale, and just like Dakota Kai had to present this brand new character, I'm excited to see what she can do by turning heel, and I hope this is one of the downs I end up giving that I look back on in time and just like, oh, that was short-sighted of me, but just this, like, what is she mad at? What is her motivation for all of this? Why am I supposed to care? Like, case in point with all of this, right? Johnny Gargano, at the climax of the Candice part of this, turns to her and he goes, "Take what's yours!" And he's pointing at a salad. You eat first now. Oh no, bad. Down, double down, double down. Bad. Alright, a few quick positives for you here. Jessie Khmer, she debuted on NXT this week. She's the Evolve star. She was working Mia Yim, and I thought this reminded me of what NXT used to be. It's hard now, isn't it? Because on the bright lights of television and not tucked away on the network for a smaller audience, you've kind of got to sink or swim. They can't just throw you out there green around the gills, and if you don't do too well, it's not the end of the world. You can come back in a couple of weeks, have another match. If you are bad, they take you off television for a long time now. But in the circumstances, you can kind of get away with it a bit more, and I thought her match with Mia Yim was great. I thought it was really good. They looked fairly even. Mia didn't squash her. She looked slick around the ring, and it wasn't polished or anything like that, but I enjoyed seeing it. It was a good old debut. I'm giving her and the Mia Yim match itself an up. And I can hold my hands up here as a man who has been critical of Mia Yim on NXT. I think she's really coming into this role quite well. She looked a steady hand. She helped the younger, less experienced person around the ring, and you can definitely see why they're putting her with Charlotte straight away. I still think it's weird that they've given her a number one contender in Io Shirai and then she's just picked somebody else to work with. I think that is weird, but I am looking forward to Charlotte versus Mia Yim. Even if that bit where she came out and she was just like, aha, well, I've never got to, we're good pals, we're so nice, aren't we? Haha, oh, I can't wait to work with you, ha ha ha. Yes, pat on the head, goodbye, and then all of a sudden Mia Yim, who's meant to be a badass, was like, oh, Charlotte, I'm just so pleased to work with you. And then was like, oh wait, did she condescend to me? Oh, now I'm annoyed. That was weird, but we move on. Oh, and just while we're talking about Charlotte, a big thank you to the literally hundreds of you who messaged me to say that Charlotte had tried to steal my gimmick on Instagram by saying on Wednesday we wear titles. Thank you, very flattered. Glad that's getting over just as well as this blanket is on my shoulders, but I did nick it from Mean Girls originally, just in case anybody doesn't know that. It's on something Wednesday, I think we wear pink. Thursdays we wear yellow. Anyway, that's thanks. El Jordi Fantasma now, and just one more time for everybody at the back. Big debuts in empty arenas. do not work. That said, I am entirely sick of banging that particular drum, and it wasn't as if we'd had 2 months of teaser promos building to this huge crowd pop we were never going to get, so I'm gonna let it slide. This match was really good. I actually thought far more even than you might have expected for a debuting star, but given that they're letting Jack Gallagher rebrand himself at the same time, it couldn't have been one-sided. It was kind of like, it was all over the place in the first half, but then the second half was quite good, and there was a bit of a babyface comeback, which I wasn't expecting. Fantasma, he takes the win. Gallagher's not really hurt by the loss, I don't think, and we move on with this tournament. Now, if you're wondering why I'm talking really quick, it's because I want to get to this point. Can you just imagine a Fantasma versus Kushida final for this tournament? The blood, it rushes to my penis. So yeah, that match gets an up, and just on the subject of Jack Gallagher, I don't quite know how I feel yet about this half Peaky Blinders, half Joe Exotic rebrand he's doing, but I'm glad they're letting him experiment with it. It's like, when you see my tattoos, you know it's gonna be a war. Or in other words, when you see my picture of a boat, you know I'm going to punch you. It's getting there. And then after the match, we're back in the parking lot, and there is that mysterious car with those mysterious masked attackers, this time going after Fantasma. So that's one Filipino, 2 Mexicans. Like, this happening once is a statistic. This happening twice is a coincidence. This happening 3 times, man. That's Trump. Alright, your main event now, and honest to God, all I can take away from this match was that Velveteen Dream pinned Adam Cole, and this is, honest to God, because I sat on Cage Match and I worked it out, this is, honest to God, the first thing that feels like it's advancing the NXT Championship storyline since... Anybody in this empty flat want to tell me the last time we advanced the NXT Championship storyline? Pikachu? You? No. Takeover Portland in February. Yeah, like literally everything else has either been a match or a feud which didn't center around the belt, or it's been like a number 1 contention thing where nobody ever got crowned. Nothing. Or it's just been a literally phoned in segment from the side of a pool. That's all we've been getting for 3 months now, but at last... somebody who wants to work for the championship has pinned the man holding the championship. That is, like, don't get me wrong, the bar is so incredibly low right now, but that is still advancement of storyline. Up! Yes, it is criminally underwhelming given the size and the stature and the pedigree of the championship that is on offer, and I still don't think this is the right direction to go, and we haven't seen Adam Cole on TV in a month and he's just gotten beat. There is so much not to like about this, but I'm so sick of nothing happening with this championship. I genuinely was like, yes, get in! I did the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, you know, he's just sat there. That was me at the end of the match. So, hopefully next week we should get something substantial happening and we can all start thinking about some light at the end of the tunnel in the shape of a ripper match between Dream and Cole. But, I mean, yeah, that gets an up this week, but given how they put the show together this week, would it surprise you if at the start of next week Cole's like, okay, Dream, you and me, NXT Championship, main event, and then somehow by the end of the night, he's working Rick Buggs? Would make no less sense than this week did. And my final point for the week, speaking of nothing making any sense whatsoever, but what the hell, I'm going to go with it. Dexter Lumis, the man I have been saying is a golden gift, a blessing in the big disguise of all this lockdown and this empty arena stuff. He's been very entertaining to watch and really good. And last week I said, wouldn't surprise me if they ended up putting him on Raw and SmackDown. So I'm taking him getting into the main event this week as a win for me, because I can do what I want. Doesn't make any sense, of course, but then again, nothing does at the moment, does it? He just appeared at the side of the ring after, of course, Keith Lee had been taken out by Damian Priest, and you all know how excited I am to see Keith Lee feud with somebody he's already wrestled. Aha! Was a bit weird though, like just 1 minute he wasn't on the side of the ring, and the next minute he was. I completely missed him. Completely missed him getting on the apron there. Must have come through the crowd. Anyway, yes, a big up for Dexter Lumis this week. Well done, my man. Nobody on earth is maximising their minutes quite like you are at the minute. And he's been, like, just his silent, stalkery, staring, like, presence has been a real rare bright spot in the midst of all this. So well done him. Secretly very proud of him. Well done you. You go from strength to strength. You're putting the star in stare. Ba-dum chish. Here all week. and last week, and next week, because it's just how it is. So there you have it, those are all the ups and downs for this week's episode of NXT. I have, of course, been your Janile host, sitting in the wrong place, Adam Clery. Let us know what you made of it all in the comments below. Of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining us on the premiere. If we did a premiere, I will see you next week. I will see you tomorrow. I'll see you all the goddamn time, because I can't leave this flat still. Yeah, look after yourselves. # on Thursdays we wear yellow. Goodbye.